3, 2, 1. Good morning, Gjallarhorn. We're back. Hey, Drew. Hey, Ted. How you doing?
Hey, feel a year older already.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
My shoulder hurts from surgery on Wednesday, but other than that, I'm good.
What exactly did you have done? You have like some rotator cuff or something?
Oh, I had a complete overhaul. It was
Really?
like I might as well have gone to Meineke. Yeah, I had like a partially torn rotator cuff, an impingement. I had bone spurs, and my bicep had partially detached from the bone, so he had to fix all that.
A man barely alive. Gentlemen, we can rebuild him. We have the technology. We have the capability to make the world's first bionic man.
I'd show you my scars, but it like hurts too much to move my shirt, so I'm not going to. But it was quite the lengthy process. But I'm well on the road to recovery, though.
You're in better shape than some of the Vikings offensive linemen last year.
Well, I was kidding with my friends at work that my shoulder is so bad that the St. Louis Cardinals GM John Mozeliak has a standing 5-year, $50 million offer for me to come pitch and go on the DL for him.
There you go. There you go.
How you doing, Drew?
I'm doing well. I'm just getting into the draft stuff. Finally kind of getting over even though I'm still kind of angry about the Vikings, I'm kind of moving on because we got free agency in the draft and plugging right along out here in California in hippie land. That's about all we got going on.
Speaking of angry, apologize to our viewers, but especially me was a little bit upset after this last season and wishing it would have gone a whole lot better. But we have been working at it to bring back today the first broadcast of the 2019 season, now that it's a new year, NFL league year, so that we can bring you Vikings football in all its glory.
A bunch of people have been asking about it. I think like 4 people asked me about it. So we got hordes of guests and followers wondering where the show's been, but we're back.
Oh, we have quite a few and more than you know.
Oh, meow.
Even some of the big boys.
Good.
Are asking for where's Good Morning Gjallarhorn. Who would those big boys be? And we have a Dr. Eric Eager and a caller, Matthew.
Oh,
really? Yes.
Nice. We got people in our group that have been asking me also in the Gjallarhorn group. So.
And we've had that. It's just I've been extremely busy here at the Stefano household. We are in the process of selling this house. It just went on the market a couple weeks ago, and finding a new house to move into that is larger and better and closer to people's works. And you want to talk about a pain in the backside, especially when a realtor comes in and goes, oh, no, you need to move all this, and you need to stage it this way, and you need to put this in storage, and you need to do that, and we need to clean, and we need to do that, and you can't be there when they shows, and moving is the worst. Oh, moving is the absolute worst. And I am presently out in my garage, in my temporary studio, until we eventually get moved and set up. Hopefully it'll be before the draft when all this gets resolved, but I'm not betting on it. So let's get into
what are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? Now we got the show back on. Here we go. We're grooving. What are we going to talk about?
We're going to talk about our anger issues. Let's quickly dissect.
Oh my God!
Let's quickly dissect what happened last year. The 8-7-1 that had us all sort of been out of shape these last couple months. And I want to start with a piece that Judd Zulgad and Matthew Collar did a podcast on here this last week. And they nailed it. And they talked quite a few things and about how the Vikings are going through their PR campaign right now with Spielman and Zimmer at the Combine trying to rewrite history. And it looks like they're trying to blame everything on John DeFilippo. But we know that isn't quite the case. They go through the timeline. We hit the season before. We go 13-3, make it all the way to the NFC Championship game, get our butts spanked, go into the offseason, and we know we are one of the 3 teams that is in play for our quarterback, Kirk Cousins. They look and say, yes, we want to improve the quarterback. We don't trust Case, think he's a one-year wonder. We don't trust Teddy's knee. We're going to move on. We want Kirk Cousins. And that's what they do. But prior to that, in the timeline, they go hire John DeFilippo. Now, there was words that came out at the time that Zimmer didn't want DeFilippo. He wanted Stefanski and to continue with the Shermer offense. But somehow, some way, he was told, nope, we're going DeFilippo, and DeFilippo became the coordinator. And then shortly thereafter, free agency opens up. We grab us Kirk Cousins, and soon after that, the rest is history. But they knew at the time that Kirk Cousins plays best in the West Coast style offense. Well, bringing in John DeFilippo, he didn't play the basic West Coast style offense. And he didn't play, obviously, the Pat Shermer version of it. And it seemed, at least to Zolgad and Collar, that they were sabotaging themselves straight off the get-go, just selecting and marrying an offensive coordinator and a quarterback. Drew, do you think this was the case?
Wow. Yeah, that pod, it was very well done. It was a very good pod. I have a question that I would like to, piggybacking off that a little bit, to ask you guys. And I don't know if you could shed light on this or not. I'm going to defer it all to you guys, but I can look at it from the comparison of, let's say, decision making. That's really where I'm at with this whole thing. And DeFilippo, I know it's not worth talking about. The guy's gone, whatever. It's not, but it is kind of worth talking about to me when it comes to decision making of the team. Let's say we have a band. All right. Ted's the drummer because he kind of has that Don Henley thing going anyway, right? Ted can play some drums. All right.
I wanted to be a drummer when I was growing up.
Dave, we got you on fiddle, because you can play the fiddle. You can sing a little bit. I am the bass player because I am shredder on the bass. And then we got a guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
We're going, we got a manager. Manages, our finances, books our gigs, deals with all the shit we don't want to deal with, right? And we got a guitar player. So we got guitar, we got you on fiddle and singing, we got me playing bass, and Ted chopping up the skins. We're going along, we're doing really well for a couple of years. All of a sudden, our guitarist leaves. He's going to Idaho to sit in a potato patch or something and find himself. Either way, it leaves us in a lurch because guitar is a huge part of our band.
Right.
So we all meet together, me, you, and Ted, and say, we got to find another guitar player or we're going to be done. I mean, we know the guitar lines. We've all written the songs. We know the guitar parts. We know what it's supposed to sound like. We know our genre of music. We know all that. So we need a new guitar player. Do we let the manager choose our guitar player? That's where I'm at with this whole thing with the Vikings. Do we let Spielman choose the offensive coordinator? That was my whole long, elongated comparison was coming down to. Would we let our manager pick our guitar player for us?
Here's my thing. I think
would you let Spielman choose your offensive coordinator?
I think Mike Zimmer had a preference, but I don't think it was a fall on my sword thing for it. I mean, look, I'd like Stefanski, and obviously we're not in the room when they're talking about who are they going to hire. Maybe it was along the lines of Spielman saying, "Hey, hear him out. Let's just interview him, see what he says." Blows away the interview. Yeah, okay, I think I can work with this guy. I don't know, but
why not? Dave has spoken in the past. Dave says, I think Spielman got him and just told Zimmer, you got to deal with it. So I don't know whether it goes along that line or do they all sit around a table? Who's making the decisions for the personnel, for everything in this whole
I think Spielman has final say.
I mean, I do too.
Or who they pick.
If the coach gets fired, it's usually by the GM.
But
I mean, the owner obviously can say.
I think
Spielman picked the guitar player. I mean,
I get it, but yeah, I don't know.
So I have a problem to answer in kind of a way. I don't know how the Vikings are going about making decisions, but the whole thing with DeFilippo was wrong and backwards. It was all done wrong.
Well,
and then you start bringing in the blocking scheme. I heard Zolgad talking about the blocking scheme was completely wrong to begin with. So they took a bunch of subpar offensive line guys, gave them the wrong blocking scheme, and the whole thing's a mess. How does it get to be a mess?
Here's what what really irritated me, and I don't off this Collar and Zolgad piece. I listened to it, but I've been kind of cloudy headed the last 4 or 5 days. But I know I heard it or read it from somewhere.
That's called narcotics.
But at the combine, it was either Spielman or Zimmer said, "Hey, every place I've been, a free agent has played much better in his second year than in his first year." And I thought so. And so everything's going to be hunky dory for Kirk Cousins in his second year. And I thought that was the dumbest excuse I have ever heard. Because
it's total bullshit.
If you want to go by that logic train, you should have kept Case Keenum, who had a pretty good first season.
Right.
No, I'm serious. No, I'm being totally serious here. I mean, if you want to talk about opening up credibility issues, that's a massive one for me. Well, Kirk will do a lot better in his second year in the system. Well, A, it's a new system, so it'll be his first year again. And B, you already had that played pretty well would have been coming into his second year in the new system in Case Keenum. Now, I'm not saying that the Vikings should have picked Keenum over Cousins. I think Cousins is the better quarterback. But instead of saying that, just say, there were times last year when either the offense was playing well, the defense didn't, or when the defense was playing well, the offense didn't. Sure. And we brought Kirk Cousins in and paid him a lot of money to play very well in crunch time. And for a good part of last season, he didn't. He knows that. He needs to fix it, and we're going to work on that. And one of the things we're going to try and help him with is to bring in an offensive system that he's very familiar and comfortable with people he's worked with in the past. That would have been a great answer. But they just do this stupid, well, he's going to be great in his second year.
Right.
Was pretty good in his first year. Alex Boone was terrible in his first year to the point he didn't even make it for his second year.
Right.
And I'm getting so frustrated with just this stupid, nonsensical Rick speak that I used to make fun of when I did these parody columns about his press conference. His press conferences, and now it's just making me mad because it's like they all think we're idiots. And look,
that really bugs the shit out of me.
We're not football guys. We don't break down hours of tape and work in an office 15 hours a day for the Minnesota Vikings. I get it, but we're not stupid either.
No,
I mean we're not stupid. So just be honest and see, because we can all see it clear as the nose on our face that Kirk Cousins didn't play well in high leverage situations last year. The Minnesota Vikings, when it really mattered last year, the defense couldn't get off the field. Just say those are the two big things you need to fix, and this is how I think we're going to fix them. And I would have been a lot more fired up heading into this offseason.
I agree, and I also feel that they think we don't remember things. Because I heard the other day, we're bringing in a new offensive system that better suits Kirk Cousins' skill set. That's what I heard with DeFilippo.
Right, yes.
Almost the same sentence, and I'm thinking, do they not remember the things that went on last? That's where it gets me. Not only the intelligent thing, but it's like they think we're all dumbasses, but do you not remember what the hell you say at these other press conferences? It really doesn't make much sense. It's almost like I'd rather a guy come out and say, hey, we fucked the whole thing up. We're going to give it another go. you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and last year they said they watched every single throw from every single quarterback, being Case, Teddy, and Kirk. And if they watched every single throw, they should have seen that Kirk Cousins works in a West Coast offense. So DeFilippo comes in and says, yes, Kirk's my man. I can work with him. And then changes the offense.
I think we can win the Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. Go ahead and throw tornadoes at me or whatever. But I don't think you go get a guy like Kirk Cousins and just let your offensive line go to hell. That's where I think the disconnect.
Yeah, but it's been gone to hell for 3 years.
Yeah, but it could have got. It didn't get addressed right. It didn't. I mean, you got the. They said that the other day in the press conference, we didn't expect the run on the interior offensive lineman at the beginning of the second round. We didn't expect it. You mean you didn't do draft simulations?
Everybody else did. And that's another indictment.
What a dumb thing to say. We didn't saying you didn't expect it. If I'm the owner of the team, I'm pulling him aside going, what the fuck do you mean you didn't expect it? I mean, come on, dude.
Everybody else did.
Yeah, that's why you need draft simulations. You simulate the draft to try to get an idea of where it's going to come down to, right?
Yeah.
We do draft simulations. I mean,
terrible ones, but yeah, I do anyways. Very terrible.
Still, I mean, they're not going to be exact to what goes on with the real thing, but if you're doing one after another, it's sooner or later, if somebody's keeping some analytical amount of shit, then there's going to be a run on offensive linemen somewhere in the second round. Then you can't say we didn't. If you're saying we didn't expect it, to me, that's like saying we didn't prepare.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
There are agencies that run like 10,000 drafts just so they know, what to expect at what levels. And they get this data, and to not do it and not take part of that, not look at all that statistics, just blows my mind.
Well, maybe they did, and they just didn't believe it based on their own
ignorance,
internal polling or whatever. I don't know.
I mean, Ruby even does, before they go on trial, they do mock trials with judges and juries. They do that because it helps you when your real case comes around. I mean, everybody does mock whatever they're doing, but they are lucky that Brian O'Neill worked out as good as he has. They are lucky. Because if they didn't, they would have been a big whiff last year. He's at least the guy that's come through this draft that can save the right side of the offensive. He's at least going to be a starter, and I'm really happy with that draft pick. But they're fortunate they got him.
I will say one thing reading about Rick Dennison, the new offensive line coach.
I like him.
He says he wants to institute his own blocking scheme, and I will say that seems to fit the Vikings offensive line personnel a lot better than the whatever the heck they were running. Hey you blocking scheme they ran for a good part of last year. So I'm cautiously optimistic that although Kevin Stefanski seemed to be overtaken by Gary Kubiak the second they hired the Denver Mafia in terms of importance in the assistant coach's room, listening to Zimmer talk. I don't know. I got to hold on to something, and that's my thing that makes me think that they realized they screwed up. And 2 years ago, when Spielman realized he screwed up, he was very aggressive in handling the offensive line. He got Riley Reif and Mike Remmers in free agency, and then he drafted Pat Elflein. And the offensive line was a key reason the Vikings went 13-3 in 2017. If he takes that sense of urgency into this free agency and draft, I think the Vikings O-line will be okay. I think.
Yeah, but is getting a guy like Mike Remmers really urgency?
2 years ago it was, yeah. Because it was.
Is that just a body that you can say you got? I mean, heard people from Carolina when we got him laughing, going, "You can have him." They thought about him how we thought about Khalil. Please tell me, Ted Glover, they are going to address this offensive line. Please tell me it's going to happen this year. I mean, address it in a real balls out. Address the shit out of it.
I would think they would at least get somebody more serviceable than Tom Compton in free agency this year.
Compton, bam! Remmers, bam! They both need to be out like your bone spurs. Out! Get them out! Give them the bone spur, baby.
It hurts, but it gets better. And then I would say two of their first three picks in the draft would almost have to be offensive linemen too, which we can talk about if you want.
I just want to see it get addressed. I want to see the offensive, and that way I could say, you know what, we did everything we could. I mean, we're still going to have a very good defense. We're still going to be in a competitive team. The window's still open, guys, but you can't win a championship with the caliber offensive line that the Vikings have. You're not going to do it. It has to be better. It has to be better, and they have to address it.
Okay, so that moves us into free agency and the draft. And if they have to address it, we already know have $7 million available in the cap, somewhere around there.
Christ, I got more money in my mattress, for fuck's sake.
And then there's tweets out yesterday saying that the salary cap's only going to be 118 million or 188 million, 88 million. And that only leaves us like $5 million. And that doesn't even cover the rookie class. So you figure you need $7 million to cover the rookie class roughly. And then you're going to need another up to 10 to cover everybody else, because you do have to figure in your practice squad guys. And it's like, we need to come up with money. And there's only one way that's going to happen, and that's going to be getting rid of some veterans. Now, you guys had mentioned a couple in the fact of Compton and Remmers.
Gone!
But there might be others. Ted, have you heard of any?
I would think Sendeo getting cut is a foregone conclusion. He has no guaranteed money. I'd have to look at his cap number, but it was like 7 or 8 million, I think.
He's out.
One thing, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Everson Griffin, because a couple days ago, and again, this might have been an OxyContin fever dream.
I love it.
But I read somewhere, or maybe I saw a tweet, that the Vikings do not plan to restructure Everson Griffin's contract. Now, I remember this coming out a couple days, maybe a day or two before the $188 million salary cap was announced.
Not even attempting to restructure it?
Right. With he's only got $1.2 million in dead money. Mm-hmm. And if they cut him, I think it's a $10 million savings.
Wow. That's spelled Weatherly. That's Weatherly right there.
Everson Griffin is over 30 years old.
Yeah.
He is, which means, he's starting to decline.
He didn't look good the second half of the season when he came back.
He didn't. And he had his off-field issues last year, which makes this sound harsh and mean and cruel. And I don't mean it to be. But the NFL, first and foremost, is a business.
Sure.
And the reason the New England Patriots have been competitive for longer than we have been in Afghanistan is because they realize when great players need to go.
Yes, they don't hang out. They don't slurp people. Nobody's favorite there.
And I love Everson Griffin, and I want him to conquer his demons, but I think it's just utterly ridiculous to keep him around at that current cap hit he's going to take. Now, if you want to reach him and maybe take $5 or $6 million off, I'd be cool with that. But that said, I thought Stephen Weatherly played very well in his absence. And from a pure football perspective, I think you could make a better case for getting rid of Everson Griffin this year than you could for getting rid of Brian Robeson at the end of training camp last year.
Absolutely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
So Sendejo and Griffin, what does that put us up to? 14 mil?
Somewhere in there. No.
Got to be another
17 mil, somewhere in there. And you talked about a tweet, Ted. I read a tweet this morning where one of the beat writers was heard talking that heard Vikings people talking that both Everson Griffin and Kyle Rudolph are going to be approached to severely renegotiate their contract, or they will be let go.
Oh, really?
Now, that's hearsay. That's somebody reporting. They're hearing reporters talk who heard club officials. But Those are two names.
You got to get
Griffin
rid
and
of
Rudolph
too, right? Remmers, he's gone.
Yeah, Remmers is
Rim
1.8 million in dead money and a cap of
he's not coming.
6.3 million. So they could save 4 million or create 4 million in cap space getting rid of him. Sendejo 5.5
Gone.
I heard, I did hear that Trey Waynes, they're shopping Trey Waynes, who's got a cap number of 9 million, which would free up some money. What would you guys?
Except for one of the trade rumors is they're talking specifically with Oakland to do a Waynes for Osimile trade.
If Oakland does that, they're on meth. I mean,
but we know Oakland's on meth.
I'll jump at it. I'll jump at that, but it seemed like we'd have to sweeten the pot a little more. I mean, Osimile's he's twice the talent that Waynes is, but hey, I'm not. Who knows? It's Gruden. Gruden does anything he wants.
Well,
I'd do that trade in a second. I'd do it in a second.
Well, Osimile has a $10.2 million cap hit with no dead money. So yeah,
he'd be more expensive.
Yeah,
but he's a proven starter that can get in. You don't have to question. He plug him in. Done. That position's taken care of.
Yeah, that's true.
And then there's one of our guards right there.
But why? But see, and here's the thing. This is Ted's pet peeve. I didn't mean to step on you, Dave, but I'm gonna do a little rant here. This is Ted's little pet peeve about Trey Waynes.
Hit it, Bone Spur.
When Trey Waynes was picked and drafted and didn't play much his rookie season, everybody said, "Oh, he's terrible. He's a bust. He's terrible. He's a bust. We should get rid of him."
I never said that.
Now he's and everybody said, "Well, now that he's finally playing well, and he's doing what everybody was complaining that he wasn't doing. Now everybody wants to trade him. It's stupid. I just don't get it."
Fans, Ted, every Monday the coach needs to be fired and all the players need to be shot. And every Saturday we're going to win the Super Bowl. They're fans. That's what they do. Nobody has any. They just fucking knee-jerk reactions. I agree with you. I'm just explaining that's where they're coming from. He is playing better. He is a better player than he was. He's better.
Right, but it's still his pass protection. He's a great tackler. One of the best.
His tackling's the reason he's still playing, I think.
Right, and against the run, in the run game, he's outstanding. But in his pass pro, he's meh. But he's improving, and he is going into his prime. He didn't develop in, the 4 years or 5 years into the shutdown corner we all hoped he'd be. But he's a very good, serviceable corner and should start anywhere in the league.
What do you want to see done with him? I mean, Ted, what do you want? Do you want Waynes to come back? What do you want personally?
I think trading him would be kind of silly because if, everybody says, well, the Vikings are fat at the cornerback position.
Do you think we are or not?
Last year, no, I don't think particularly we are because by the end of last season, Hughes was hurt, Xavier Rhodes was hurt, and our starting cornerbacks were Holton Hill and Trey Waynes and Mackenzie Alexander. And the dime back, I think, who saw some pretty extensive playing time was Marcus Sherrills. I think it'd be kind of dumb to trade a starting cornerback unless you're going to get a high round pick and or
Osimile.
A really good player. I mean now if the Raiders dangle like a 3 in Osimile, yeah, I guess I'd do that. I don't
3 and Osimile? Fuck up! I'll drive out there and drive that. I don't know. I would Osimile for him, but if you want to throw a draft pick in too, the draft pick talk yesterday on the Gjallarhorn, there's people saying he could get a first or a second, and I'm going, I don't know. I don't think you're gonna get a first or a second.
Well, Oakland, I saw an explanation. One of the reasons why Oakland got rid of Mack last year is Oakland does not want 5 players on the team taking up more than $70 million in their contract per season.
Fuck does Oakland know?
Well, it's not a bad premise because you figure you got 180 million on top of that, so that leaves you 110 million to go with the other 50 plus players because you got to consider your practice squad. So
right now the Raiders are sitting with almost $73 million in available cap money. So that's just a dumb excuse.
Well, and that's the Raiders.
Come on,
But if you apply that to Minnesota Vikings and you take the top 5 players' contracts on there, we're sitting at the top 5 at a little bit over $80 million. And that leaves the rest. And I think one of the top 5, I'm pretty sure, is Everson Griffin. So they're going to need to free up some money. And we hamstrung ourselves. Seattle, Drew said, has such the advantage because they got Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson been to the Super Bowl twice.
They're set up. If you get a rookie
on his rookie contract,
get a rookie quarterback who kicks ass, you're set up to win the Super Bowl the next 3 years. The Chiefs are in great position. The Chiefs are in great position to win because they happen to strike it. They strike the gold on the thing because they can put their money elsewhere. They don't have to tie it all up in the quarterback, and they can. It just gives you a huge advantage.
Well, it does. And if you don't have that and you have the $28 million a year quarterback, you now have to hope for the hits in the draft to compensate for that. Right? Because every other position, there's no more important position than a quarterback.
Hey, we'll have
every other position, you're of parts. So you need 3 or 4 of them to hit really good.
Sure.
To make up for that, to put you in that same winning window. We've got to hope for that in one draft.
We'll have 17 7th-round picks, so we'll hit on somebody.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to throw the Raiders right out the window because what do you need to win in this league? You need a playmaking wide receiver, and you need a difference maker on defense. They had both and got rid of them. So fuck the Raiders. They don't know what they're doing over there.
Yeah, I'm not saying they did, but
no. But
their logic, I understood their logic on that one.
Yes, that does that point of it does make sense. I don't. With Cousins, with the money you spend on the quarterback, you're going to have to hit on the other positions. But we got to look at it from the standpoint: we still have Diggs, we still have Thielen, we got Cook. We got a very good foundation of offensive players,
minus the offensive line. Yes.
See, I would argue they've got 3/5 of the problem solved in the offensive line with Riley Reef, Pat Elflein, and Brian O'Neill. They just need to get the interior offensive line fixed. I'm okay with Reef at tackle for another year or two. I'm okay with Elflein.
We can do better at tackle.
I'm not saying they can't, but
I know.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, but going into this year, I think Reef is an okay answer for 2019.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree, but let me throw this out there real fast that the more I'm dissecting this first round, Ted, the more I'm seeing the first 10 picks all on defense. And I can't remember a draft in my lifetime where I've seen it, but it might happen this year.
That'd be beneficial to the Vikings.
Yeah, it would be. But that brings up the fact that Jonah Williams, some of those top tackles, if they're there at 18, that makes your decision even more wacky.
Okay,
well if a blue chip tackle drops, you take the blue chip tackle. They don't come.
Let me ask you this. We all agree that the Vikings need to address the offensive line.
Yes.
But I agree with what you just said. Those three can stay. I think Reef, Elflein, O'Neill, you could start there and kind of motor it up from there.
Anthony Barr's probably not coming back.
No, we have no money.
Sheldon Richardson might not be
coming back. We have no money.
When I do this, that means they're out.
Let's say a guy, Drew, you mentioned 10 straight defensive linemen going off the board first.
Not linemen, just players.
Defensive players. Yeah, I'm sorry, defensive players. Let's say a quarterback or two goes and whatever. And at 18, linebacker Devin or defensive lineman Ed Oliver are still on the board. Which would be 2 positions of need depending on how free agency goes. Man. Would you guys be okay with the Vikings selecting one of those 2 players and then going offensive line in rounds 2 and 3?
Oh, that would make it certainly more. Even if Greedy Williams, the corner fell, who I think is the best corner in 10 years I've seen play college football. The guy's awesome.
If the Vikings draft a quarterback in round 1,
I know.
People are going to set themselves on fire like they're a Buddhist monk in Vietnam, man.
And you know what? If I say the top 10 picks are going to be defense, he's probably going to be around 5. So he'd be one of those.
Okay.
But to answer the question, I think the way I'm doing this research, the way it's all falling out is there's going to be some really, really good guards in the second round of the draft.
Yes.
The talent for tackle, I mean, Reisner and Jonah Williams and Dillard, those guys are all going to be Kajus, they're all going to start day one.
Cody Ford,
especially because he can flop back between guard and tackle. And even the top two centers, you got Jenkins and you got Bradbury. Both those guys play guard and center, and they're both really good. They're both really good interior linemen. The choice is so vast there. I think kind of what Dave just said. If you got the top tackle falling to you, how do you not take him? But what are you really doing if you're going to play Reef at left tackle? You're trying overdrafting a position, right? You kind of need that.
Well, then you do the talk about, well, can Reef play left guard?
Don't even get me started.
No.
I'm just saying, if that's what you do, if you drop that, if the number one blue chip tackle drops to you, you have to take him.
But
that's going to last a long time. Reef's got one more year.
If you're not going to plug Reef in a different position, then you're wasting that pick taking another left tackle. What are you going to do with Reef? If he can't go inside, then you're kind of causing a hole.
Yeah, I know.
Left tackle.
But Reef's contract's what? He's got 2 years left. And then he's going to be aging up.
I understand fully what you're saying. If the best tackle's there, left tackle, how do you not take that guy? But I've never seen the best left tackle in the draft fall to 18 yet.
Oh, I haven't either, and I don't think that's going to happen.
But there's going to be a lot of what I let in with this is there's so many good defensive players in this draft. You got White, you got Bosa, you got this name one after another.
Well, and we know Zimmer's going to want to have a replacement for Anthony Barr.
Yeah, I mean, you got the two Devon linebackers. What if they fall to 18? And Ted said, Oliver, how would you pass on Oliver if he's there at 8? How do you pass on that guy?
Well, I do a bunch of between mock draft posts, which I didn't get to this week because of my surgery. But I do a bunch of other ones with a bunch of different variables, and almost not every draft, but a good percentage of the mock drafts I do, either Ed Oliver or Devin Bush falls to 18. So, and everybody's like, oh, that'll never happen. That'll never happen. Folks, weird things happen in the first round of the NFL draft. And guys you think will be gone in the top 5 are going to be sitting there. Dwayne Haskins might be there at 18.
Devin Bush will be there. I don't think Devin White will, but Devin Bush is a middle linebacker. So I don't know really. And what are we going to do with Kendricks? If you draft Devin Bush, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Eric Kendricks go to the outside? I mean, what do you do with that situation?
I meant Devin White. I'm sorry, not Devin Bush. What was I doing? Giving praise to a Michigan guy.
I haven't said Bosa. He's number 1 overall, so we'll see.
Devin White, LSU linebacker, right?
There's going to be some serious. The Vikings have to hit the first 2 picks. They have to be starters. They have to hit them, and they got to be starters. So I don't know if the word is, though, I've had other people tell me there's not a guard in this draft worth taking at 18, Drew. There's not. And I'm thinking, well, there's a cluster of them in the second round. I think what really makes it tricky, guys, is the fact that these guys play multiple positions. That's what makes it tough. That's what makes it really tough. When you look at Cody Ford, when you look at guys that can flop around the offensive line and fill different positions when a guy gets hurt.
But that's good. But when you do your research, look what scheme they're running.
No, I know. And here's a good example. Michael Dieter from Wisconsin. He played left tackle last year for Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. That guy is going to play guard in the NFL. Michael Dieter will be the first guy to tell you, I'm going to play guard in the NFL because I'm a better guard than I am a tackle, except Wisconsin was loaded with good offensive linemen. But
I am Dieter, and this is Sprockets.
But you can bring Dieter in but he can play tackle. So when you got guys that can play, the guys that get hurt about this are the guys that play one position only. They're the ones that are going to drop.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know what they're going to do. It's going to be 18's going to have a premier player there, though. And I think it's going to be even more confusing if one of these really, really good studs that are top 10 guys fall. Like Ted said, then you're really going, holy shit, what are we going to do?
If it's a consensus top 5 or 10 defensive player, be it a defensive lineman or linebacker that's sitting on the board at 18, Mike Zimmer is going to be standing on the table saying, we got to get this guy.
And you know what? How can you blame him, though? You know,
I'll tell you what, he'll have a legitimate reason, too, especially if Anthony Barr leaves like everybody expects and they can't re-sign Sheldon Richardson like everybody expects. I would fully expect it.
You know what? You must be not on pain meds. That makes a lot of sense. You're doing good. The shoulder has helped you.
Hey, guys.
It's killing me. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. It's going to be we'll have a couple draft shows though before then, hopefully.
Oh yes, and that was what I was going to lead into. We will continue this talk in future recordings and episodes, but we're going to wind down this show. But first, I wanted to leave you with one thing to contemplate. If this is the final, possibly the final season for Spielman and Zimmer, right? It's all on the line. Yes, Zimmer got his extension for 1 year, but we know that basically means nothing. It means he's not a lame duck coach in the eye of free agencies, but he could still be fired. And Zimmer's last season, if it is theirs, do you think they're going to go all out on either free agency, but especially the draft? Because it's now or never, baby, and they've got to do it. And I fully anticipate that they'll suck up some picks from next year's draft as well to move up and grab the personnel that they want.
See, that would be a bold move.
Shouldn't you go all out every year? Shouldn't you go all out every year? I mean, they're going to go all out this year because it's Zimmer's. It's a great question, Dave, but it just kind of makes me think, what have they been doing the last 3 years? Dragging their feet? I mean, fuck.
Well, no, I get it. I mean, up until this year, they've been thinking long term, not to sacrifice future drafts for in the moment guy. But if they both think, well, this could be our swan song, that's a very good question, dude. That's a very, very good question. Who you got there?
I got Salem. Salem came in.
Hey, Salem, the other reason it's a good question is because I think the moment Cousins came to Minnesota, Zimmer said, this is do or die for me. This is either going to work or
it's got to be. So
it'll be my exit. But I think we got a leg up on the Super Bowl over New England and everybody else. You know why? There's one thing that's happened that I think is huge. We're going to have a coach for the kicker. And I think that
maybe, but I do think that's huge.
That gives us a huge advantage. That's a huge advantage for the NFL. We got our own personal kicker coach. Oh, jeez.
With that, let's wrap it up.
All righty.
All right.
Salem, you want to say goodbye or hi? You want to say hi?
Goodbye, sweetheart.
Hi, Salem.
Can you wave?
Salem.
Go see mommy.
Don't scare her.
There she goes.
Aww.
It's really good talking football with you guys.
It was. Been too long.
We have a lot coming up for future shows for people listening. We're going to have some games. We're going to have some guests. Aren't we, Dave? I'm just kind of.
Yep. No, we're planning on it. Ted, have you got anything to say?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I need to take some pain medicine. I gotta
time for some Percocet, baby.
Thanks for playing drums. You're a good drummer, by the way. Your drum beat.
Hey, right now, I could be the Def Leppard drummer because I only got one arm.
On that note,
Drew, what have you got to say, baby?
Meow, meow, Viking cow. That's great, dude.
Hey, skull, everybody. Good morning, Gjallarhorn is live.
Hysteria.